Let us not forget that COVID-19 is a gendered crisis.
We are in the middle of a gendered crisis. It's true, the coronavirus is sexist, and bad news for us, the UN just released a recent study that found that 90% of you guys, who knows how the hell they came up with that, but 9 out of 10 of you people watching this are actually sexist. Today we're going to talk about how discrimination is being caused, of course, not just by men, but now by non-living viruses. Anyway, welcome back to the Daily Dose, of course, here on Slightly Offensive with your favorite queer person of color, me, Elijah Schaefer. Before we jump into today's story, which is amazing, including our interview with Sydney Watson, who is a fellow YouTuber, I want to let you know that we need you to subscribe by clicking below. And please check that you are still subscribed. We get plenty of reports every video of people just getting automatically unsubscribed because YouTube doesn't want you to hear the truth every day. Also, realize that due to the economy changing and different things, we are now offering our subscription to BlazeTV for only $69, down from $99, using the code Elijah at blazetv.com/slightly-offensive, which of course is the best way to support this show. Some of you guys want to know, how do we support your trips and the podcast and everything? What do we do? Just click the links below and sign up, and then you get access to tons of other free content as well. It's really amazing. Anyway, so the coronavirus is sexist. I mean, women, you have to realize, are always the victim. And it doesn't really matter if they're not the victim, if the statistics show they're not the victim, if they're attending college at higher rate, if the wage gap isn't real, etc. What matters is what they feel. Because while I love women, and believe me, there is no limit of the amount of love that I have for women. In fact, I'm glad I'm a Christian because there would be too much love for women going on in my life. I will say this, sometimes women are full of shit. And today is one of those days. In fact, it's one of those years when we find out that the UN, of all places, has found that 90% of us are sexist. The study comes out of the UN, which finds that in a survey that included people from 75 countries, the UNDP found that progress towards gender equality has essentially stalled out over the past decade after consistent progress over the previous century. But what stopped the progress of women? Was it men killing them? No, that's just Saudi Arabia. Was it men not giving them jobs? No, that's just Iran. What was going on with women? Well, we're going to get into this. Apparently, for The Atlantic, what really halted women's rights is the coronavirus. And I want to say this, the coronavirus is from China. It also the coronavirus blocked celebrations of Trans Visibility Day. China is anti-trans, and they're now anti-women. Damn you, China. Your orange chicken's so good, but your love for women is not. Anyway, The Atlantic says that the crisis here is big. It says, enough already. When people try to be cheerful about social distancing and working from home, noting that William Shakespeare and Isaac Newton did some of their best work while in England, Shakespeare spent most of his career in London. And when we come down here, it says this, purely a physical illness, the coronavirus appears to affect women less severely. It doesn't factually appear women less severely in terms of the fact that it's literally killing men on a higher rate than women. But in the past few days, the conversation about the pandemic has broadened, of course, from facts and science to the wonderful world of progressive bullshit. That being said, we are not just living through a public health crisis, but an economic one. Much of our normal life is suspended for 3 months or more. Job losses are inevitable. And at the same time, school closures and household isolation are moving the work of caring for children from the paid economy, nursery schools, babysitters, to an unpaid one. Ladies and gentlemen, feminism is being stalled because mothers have to take care of their children. And yes, you're sitting there going, oh, that's terrible. Why would we want a society where women actually raise their kids and pour into them and are nurturing like the way they were designed, rather than leaving the state to do that with underqualified and underpaid social workers raising your kids? And sorry excuses for teachers like here in California. Well, there are good teachers out there, and if you're one of them, then God bless you. But you know a lot of your coworkers suck anyways. And I wasn't wrong about this. Women are so opposed to living out their natural gendered biased roles, which I believe God designed. You may not believe it, but at least we can know that science at least shows it. That we're finding out that the main problem with women is that they're returning to being 1950s housewives. Apparently, the quarantine is sexist. So it's not just the virus itself that is anti-woman, but it's the quarantine itself. So trying to prevent the spread of a disease is also anti-women. Why? This article says here from The Conversation that as the COVID virus spreads across the world, many governments have shut down schools, nurseries, and other care providers, with more and more people working from home, and it is likely that many families will find themselves in a situation where both parents are trying to work from a kitchen table while also attempting to homeschool the children. Well, first of all, wrong. Men don't belong in the kitchen, and they're not there. So you're not going to find them at the kitchen table. But one of the top regular household chores, as well as cooking and cleaning, can feel like an extra load for many parents at this time. The likelihood is that despite both parents now being at home, much of the domestic work will still land squarely on the shoulders of the women of the house. Okay, this isn't sexist. Men suck at cleaning kitchens. This is a fact. Have you ever tried to clean a stove after you're done cooking and watch as the woman of the house comes in and tells you, you missed a spot, you did this wrong? Have you ever tried to mop a house, men, when there's another woman living in the house? You've never mopped it enough. In fact, even if you fold the clothes, you folded them wrong, you made the bed incorrectly, and you also put the dishes in the wrong places, the forks aren't lined up correctly, the fridge isn't organized right, you needed to vacuum, you missed a spot. I mean, should I go on? Men who live with women know exactly what I'm talking about, and my producer is nodding. So don't give me this whole women and are being suppressed and men are sexist because they have to clean. Women like to clean. I'm not joking. That's not a sexist statement. And I don't know if it's that they actually enjoy the process of cleaning in particular, but they do enjoy not having men clean, because even if men clean, women still have to clean after. So why waste cleaning on two people when it can just be the sole responsibility of one? Call me a sexist? No, call me a cleanist, because I like my house clean and I know who's the perfect person for a job. But anyway, why listen to a man mansplain everything? Why don't you listen to a woman opinion on some of this stuff? Apparently, also, the virus is emotionally abusive to women. And there is this article we're going to go over that is how, essentially, where is this? Women are more stressed and burdened by the coronavirus than men. A poll finds 5 ways to help change that. And to talk to me about this is, of course, a good friend of mine, Sydney Watson. The coronavirus is sexist for women in terms of the emotional burdens that it's causing them. And this article is from ABC News that women are more stressed and burdened by the coronavirus than men, a poll finds. 5 ways to help change that. So let's unpack this. First of all, how could women be more stressed and burdened by the coronavirus than men?
Elijah, oh my goodness. These things, it's like, I mean, obviously I don't think in the victimhood mentality, so it's very hard for me to comment. I don't know, maybe they're a little bit more emotional. Honestly, it's bizarre to me when people say that women and men experience crises differently, because men have just as many emotions, maybe so they internalize them a lot more. So these sort of things, I don't even know where to start. Tell me some of the reasons. Give me some of them. Let's break this down, because I'm at a loss.
Yeah, so women are more worried that they or someone in their family will get sick from the new novel coronavirus. They worry more about losing income. What poll was that? Like, what man have you met that doesn't worry about losing his income?
Didn't you know that all men are just sitting on like a landmine of money? They're totally fine in terms of finances. You know, forget the fact that the average person has between, $500 to $4,000 in their bank at any one time. Forget that. That doesn't matter.
I work for the Blaze. I'd be cool if one day I have that much money in my bank account. That's really cool. But it also says they worry more about putting themselves at risk because they can't afford to stay at home. So, men actually can afford to just not work.
Oh, apparently. This is what I'm saying. They're sitting on this landmine of money. So really, men can actually just go and buy a yacht, go hang out in the Mediterranean for however long, and they're actually going to be golden. Women, on the other hand, are stuck at home with the kids doing the chores. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm seeing a lot of sexism happening through this virus. It must be definitely geared towards women, geared towards hurting us.
This is even better. It says the Kaiser Foundation found that a poll of over 1,200 adults, which of course is a good sampling of 367 million people in the country, ages 18 and older in the U.S. with no limitations on anything except for the fact they were just over 18, found that women also worry more than men that they may not be able to afford testing or treatment for COVID-19, and report that the worry and stress related to the virus have had major negative impact on their mental health. Is this okay? Before I go any further, what they're not saying that it really actually has any real effect on women. They're saying that women have a lower mental capacity to handle stress, which is a true statement in many cases.
Yeah, well, women are, as a general rule, significantly more outwardly emotional. I mean, this is like statistically backed up. And it's not that men don't experience feelings, it's that they internalize them a lot more. And again, like whether that comes down to a biology thing or a sort of societal, basically conditioning them to be like that, we don't know. I mean, I'm sure that there's studies out there that confirm either way. But yeah, women are we're much more outward about things. So it's unsurprising to me that that's what the results. Like jokes aside, it is actually unsurprising to me that these would confirm that view. But it's not to say that men aren't still concerned, because men actually, I would say, have the bigger burden in the sense that the majority of them are breadwinners. So if they're out of work, then their whole family doesn't eat. They can't turn the lights on, so on and so forth. And if, they're the main part of the workforce. So this will disproportionately affect them in terms of those sort of, that sort of a thing, like on a higher level. Just because women are out of their job as a childcare teacher doesn't mean that, men aren't still being affected as well. I don't know. These things are weirdly one-sided. It's like they don't even want to understand the male perspective. And I think that's where I get bothered by it.
Yeah, but okay, but it gets better because now we're using Harvard and stuff. And when you hear Harvard mentioned, you've got to listen because nobody from Harvard's done anything bad in the news recently. Like, I don't know, sell scientific secrets to China and then get arrested while taking millions of dollars of embezzlement. Anyway, experts are pointing to the fact that the reason why the stress among women is higher is because of that women are often placed in more of a caregiver role. So it's not that women choose professions and things that deal with people and emotions, but they are placed. What women are being placed in the roles of caregivers in the country? And I'm looking for some examples since you're a lot smarter than I am.
Oh, well, placed in these roles. I mean, like, are we not talking about the fact that women go to university and pick to do these things? We're discrediting that? We're turning that out? I mean,
women don't have rights, Sydney. You know that. They don't even choose what they eat.
We can't even vote.
Even if they had the right, they wouldn't because they don't know what they want to eat.
Well, exactly. I mean, we can't even decide. When you ask us if we're hungry and we say no, then we immediately want to eat your fries. I don't know if I want to eat it till it's sitting in front of me. I'm sorry about that.
I saw a restaurant that had actually, they had the add-ons. So you can add like a side of potatoes, you can add a side of broccoli, and then they had the girlfriend portion, which is one extra chicken strip and a small handful of extra fries for $2.25. Just because that she said she wasn't hungry, but you might want to add that extra strip.
Love it.
You add the strip if you want the strip. You know what I'm saying?
I've been on dates before where guys are like, do you want like a salad? I'm like, no, I want like steak. I don't know why this is a question. Couldn't even imagine
for the beef.
I love that. Yeah, no, I have to show my dominance. I have to show my dominance. No, look, in terms of all of this, I think the biggest thing is that if you were expecting the feminists to not take a really firm stance on this, you're crazy. I mean, like, these guys have to let you know how women are being unfairly treated in any and all situations, even with a virus that indiscriminately kills people, That's completely irrelevant. That has nothing to do with any of this. So in terms of, these studies and these things that you're talking about, to me, it's a little bit like they have nothing else to do. So, of course, they're going to look at the way that this virus in particular is affecting both of the sexes. But just to be clear, they're only looking at one sex, because forget men. We don't care about them.
And you know what? And thank you as my favorite expert on women and men's issues. It's Sydney Watson, of course, in the article. And now we're going to move on to our next article, of course, here in just a moment. Yeah, I love Sydney so much. You got to check out her YouTube channel. I wish we had more time to speak, but whatever. You can only do so much here on YouTube because you guys have short attention spans. But never mind the fact that in America, a virus that came from China is emotionally abusing women. Real sexism and misogyny is happening in other countries, but we ignore it, of course. In Malaysia, the Malaysian government is facing severe criticism for sharing sexist and misogynistic advisories aimed at telling women how they need to stay productive and keep the peace at home and also wear makeup during the lockdown. Well, it's misogynistic and sexist in America, but I mean, what have we come to in our culture where like encouraging women to stay productive is actually misogynistic? Because in fact, I have a theory that I believe that a lot of women don't really like to work. They don't like to work a lot. Or if they like to work, they really need a job that is passion driven, where men can just turn off their brain and like go work as an electrician and just put wires together. I mean, I know it's much more complicated. I'm not speaking it down, but men work like that. Now, women need some sort of emotional connection and drive. And just staying home with nothing to do, I don't know, they might just end up getting fat. And most men don't like to date fat women, and it could destroy an entire country. But I'm not going to go that far into it. I'm letting you know that the Malaysian government, if you want to talk about sexism, There you go. There's your sexism for you. Telling women they need to wear makeup. Women don't have to wear makeup. In fact, a lot of you look better without as much makeup as you wear. I wish you guys would realize that. Save the icing for the cake. But COVID-19 is also apparently sexist in China, where the Chinese, who would have known the Chinese are disrespectful to people? Holy hell. I'm like, are you serious? The people who literally abort their children just because it's a woman? You know, in China they do that. They literally have their kid killed because it's a woman. So they're already they're pre-sexist at birth. But the Chinese government is using women as an example of people who are insubordinate, apparently. But I was coming to all of this stuff and what was really going on. I was realizing that the ultimate victim of all of this really is men. Because if there's one thing that you don't take away from a man other than his own balls, excluding Caitlyn Jenner, would be their ability to just laugh at things that aren't funny. And there's one thing that women hate more than men, than the patriarchy, is the fact that we know how to just enjoy life. And that's a true statement. And you might call that sexist. I call that realistic. Because these women are so mad at the coronavirus that they have decided that the humor, and by the way, I get so many of you guys who unsubscribe and get mad because you don't realize that most of what I say is a joke, including my own life, that you don't understand that I'm just being sarcastic. I love women, and I like to make fun of them too, because you're meanest to the people that you love the most. That's the way I believe. This article comes from the News Minute. It says, misogyny in the time of coronavirus lockdown. Can the sexist joke stop now? Before I read the article, I'm going to say no. In my household, they'll continue. But it looks like people are really mad because there's been this uptick of Karen jokes. If you don't know what a Karen joke is, a Karen is a synonym for can I speak to your manager haircut woman, also known as middle-aged boomer. But people are using these jokes about middle-aged housewives drinking a lot of wine. And believe me, the fact that that's true for millions of Americans that have to live in those houses, it's not a joke to them. But this one person said, might not see much in the big scheme, but can we stop with the Sharon and Karen posts? Bearing in mind just how many Karens are out there keeping this country going, it's sexist and ageist with a dollop of wokeness because you wouldn't dare signal your disdain with a BAME name coronavirus. So you remember how they said that the calling the virus, the China virus, was racist towards Chinese? Well, now making Karen jokes is racist against the Karens, but I even think this guy's racist because he's using the archetype or the monolith of all women who this is a class of women called the Karens. Quite frankly, Karens, he's not wrong, are keeping society in order. They're always making sure that employees at fast food restaurants and other low-level wages are staying in line by always making sure their managers are aware of the simple inconsistencies and ways they're not doing their jobs. So salute to you, Karens. Not to mention the way they're keeping many barbers in business with their terrible haircuts, which should never be legal. That's the only thing I agree with the North Korean authoritarian regime is that we should have statewide, systematic, authorized haircuts, and there should only be 8 of them, and the rest of them should be banned. Holy hell, what are half the people holding on their heads, including the Karens? Get rid of that hack job. If you're going to buy a lawnmower, keep it on the lawn, not on your head. But this guy, Wen Semi Aya, which is not a racist thing to say, that's his name. That's his name. His name's Wen Semi Aya. That's his name. He said, I just want to say the fook is wrong with my parents. My dad just said, I think lady drivers are worse than the coronavirus. And my mom laughed, what the fook? So I said back, funny, meh, which I guess was supposed to be sharp. And they gave me a look. Mother effers, first that's sexist. Shut up, you're a woman. You? Okay, first of all, much worse than that joke is the fact that you just said shut the F up to your parents. Maybe if your mom hadn't been a feminist and stayed home from her job and instead of letting the state raise you and spend an hour with you, you might have been a more decent human being. But of course, coming from the fact that you're from countries that use women in their propaganda, I don't know what kind of example you're getting. But I know this, the coronavirus is not only not sexist, it's not alive. Viruses are not living things like bacteria. In fact, they have no feelings or emotions. We do know they have sexual attraction because, of course, HIV prefers one sexual orientation over the other. But when it comes to this virus, we know it doesn't discriminate. My name is Elijah Schaefer, the host of The Daily Dose, here every single day on Slightly Offensive, as well as on blazetv.com/slightlyOffensive. Thank you so much again for watching. Have a great rest of the day, and may God bless the United States of America. I'll see you tomorrow.